backstroke and I'm sorry, we're gonna do fly and breaststroke, and then tomorrow freestyle and backstroke. So I'm just gonna jump into it because I'm gonna stay on time, and we are going to, I think I have a lot to cover. So we're gonna start just with watching some fly videos. So I have about 10 videos for fly, 14 videos for breaststroke, and yeah, this I would say is pretty normal. And this is what I'm seeing more and more as I'm going to clubs, as I'm watching swimming, just watching in general. A lot of what I see as up and down, very up and down motion fly. And I think it really kind of follows along with that idea of being this undulating stroke, and that motion that we put in people's heads about fly from the start is being this, kind of undulating wave-like action. I generally am now seeing more and more and noticing just a ton of up and down head movement. And this could also be related to, this is that kind of press, and that kind of deep press is something we've seen for years from the greatest of all time, Michael Phelps. It's just not something that I would say that most people are physically able. to do optimally, and doesn't necessarily create the dynamic that I think is what people want. So what I see is like a lot of deep chest press, a lot of head diving down to the bottom, and then you see in this athlete coming up, just, yeah, like there's a lot of great action and movement, but it is pretty up and down, and you can see it when I slow it down. And when the clip is slowed down, you see just how deep the shoulders end up on that press. And yes, like that press gets the hips up, but there's other ways that you can do that effectively. I would say generally what I'm looking for is I'm looking for a flat stroke, I'm looking for a forward stroke, I'm looking for basically kicking the hands forward. So anything that I'm talking about with fly is about pressing forward, because I think that is the common component across all of great fly. I see tons of variation in the way that people are catching. I know that, you know, the biggest obstacle in fly is getting your arms over the water. And so let's focus the technique on pressing forward and kicking hands forward. So now I'm gonna move on to just, yeah, like some elite flyers. This is a little bit of an angle, but what I'm gonna have is, I'm gonna show different versions of this clip. But basically, like, yes, there is a press, the hips come up at that point, but everybody is reaching forward. And in this clip, it just pauses on that deepest part of the press. There is an extension with the arms. They're kicking the hands forward. You look at the head at the deepest point, and the head, for most of these athletes, is in line with the body. It's not this super deep shoulder press. It's not your head getting buried down to the bottom. There is an extension that goes along that is coordinated with the kick and the hands driving forward. So like I would say my number one cue, which is, it's a little bit harder to see because it's not a position, it's an action. It's on pressing forward. It's on kicking your hands forward. It's on getting your head in line, especially from the breath, but not letting your head go deeper than that. So I'm all about, like, probably one of the very, more common coaching cues in fly is you're coming up for a breath, and it's to get your head down before your hands enter the water, and I'm all about that. But I think one of the keys is getting your head down from the breath, but not letting it go any deeper than in line with your body. And so you look at these athletes, you have athletes, you don't have the chin tucked. If anything, the head is neutral, but for many of the athletes, they're even kind of pressing forward, and the chin is a little bit separated from the body. And so there is I would say, like, you're pressing forward together. It's your hands, your head, your shoulder, your back, and the kick all working together to do that. And everyone is aiming for this awesome hand entry, and this is a product of doing that timing and that coordination properly. So I think it becomes like a primary teaching point. Oh, you want to enter your hands in front of your shoulders, but again, it is a product of that coordinated, effective movement of pressing your hands forward. So yeah, we see all of these athletes entering at shoulder width, maybe a little bit wider. And I think we all know what this looks like, but again, I don't think this is we could have people focusing on entering forward, but for the most part, I would say that this is a result of pressing, of kicking your hands forward. And so, I mean, again, like, we all know what this looks like. I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this video, but I would say, like, going back to what this looks like, and then the contrast example of athletes that are diving down, that are how deep, you could see how deep the body is, and the hips, yes, are coming up at this point, but all those athletes that were pressing forward were still getting the hips up. And I think that is, it's just an interesting teaching point that might, I don't know, just something to consider as you're using your language. And it's hard to see just exactly how deep somebody's pressing from above water. So I do think it is hard to evaluate fly technique without some underwater video. And if given the opportunity and the resources of your team, I think those are really, really, really important. Something else that I've been seeing a lot and noticing a little bit more, so I emphasize the press a lot. I think that's actually easier to get coming down from a breath because your head is kind of helping with that motion. But one thing I've seen is a lot of folks on non-breathing strokes keeping their head buried because it's a non-breath. So the thought being that, just wanting to keep your head under the water. But I think watching great flyers, they are allowing their head to come up a whole lot more on the non-breathing strokes than so many club athletes that I see nowadays, even college athletes. And there are some national team athletes that I think their head is buried way too much on non-breathing strokes, because if the press is the most important part of the fly stroke and your head is buried, then first of all, it's disconnected already from where the body is. It's not in line with your body. So allow your head to rise naturally to be in line with your body. And then from here, you could still use that to press forward. And you're watching all these elites and all these great flyers in their non-breathing strokes. And their face is probably the only thing, for the most part, staying in the water. Cut this clip of some athletes in their non-breathing and their breathing strokes, just so you can kind of see, the starting point for the press on a non-breathing stroke is one that is very, very similar to a breathing stroke. And they all end up in the same position. And again, it just makes that press forward much more effective if you were to allow the non-breath to rise up naturally.